Well, I tried to switch things up on the Mr. Nostalgia channel, and it's just not working out for me. I don't know what the deal is, whether it's just with the algorithm or if y'all just don't want to see me talk about Ready, Set, Learn. Either way, it looks like I gotta go back to my bread and butter, Disney Channel movies, baby. But you know what? That's fine though, because it's been a little bit since I talked about them. And to be fair, that is what I built this channel off of, more or less. So I gotta go back to my roots. Anyway, Radio Rebel. It's a movie. I remember when it came out, as I was still watching Disney Channel around this time, but I don't think I've ever actually seen it at the time of me writing this portion of the video. I kind of had a rule back then that if you weren't a Disney actor I cared about, then I probably was not going to watch your movie, and unfortunately, I just did not care about Debbie Ryan around this time. The Sprouse twins, Jason Dolley, Bridget Mendler, Brandon Michael Smith, I guess, and of course Adam Hicks were all examples of people I would go out of my way to watch. Well, you know what, man? Maybe I'm wildin'. Maybe this movie is actually this hidden gem that I've been sleeping on this whole time. I mean, I doubt it, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Join me, for my name is Mr. Nostalgia, and today, for the first time ever, we will be talking about the Disney Channel original movie, kinda Radio Rebel.
What's up? I'm Debbie Ryan. Come on, I'm taking you behind the scenes of the Disney Channel original movie, Radio Rebel. Get ready for my personal on-set, behind-the-scenes tour. It all starts now.
Radio Rebel hit the small screens on February 17th, 2012. Now, I called this a Disney Channel original movie, and all of you called this a Disney Channel original movie, and even Disney called this a Disney Channel original movie. But it's kind of not. So on Kids TV, there are original movies and shows that are typically made in-house by the actual network. But then there are other shows and movies that are made, say, in Canada, that networks then acquire the rights to air here in the States. Total Drama Island and all of those other weird-looking Cartoon Network shows would be examples of this, which is why they were almost always excluded from anniversary montages or merchandise featuring other Cartoon Network characters. So for Disney, an example of this would be My Babysitter's a Vampire, which for those who did not know, was made in Canada. Now, I say all that to say that I guess at some point, the Family Channel in Canada was making another movie you've probably heard of, 16 Wishes. They likely wanted a relatively big name in the children's entertainment space. Debbie Ryan was in the middle of her Sweet Life tenure. It just kind of made sense. Disney was probably like, sure, you can use her, but we're going to slap the Disney logo on it when it airs in the US, and that's what ended up happening. The movie did well, so Disney and production company Mar Vista teamed up again and gave her another one, this time being Radio Rebel, which aired in the middle of her Jessie tenure. It's directed by Peter Howitt, who has made very different movies. I'm pretty sure this dude is the only person in the world to work with both Debbie Ryan and Samuel L. Jackson. This movie is actually based on a book called Shrinking Violet by Danielle Joseph. Pretty cool. Seems like right off the bat they took some creative liberties with this one when compared to the source material. Will it result in a good movie? Well, let's just find out. So Debbie Ryan is Tara Adams, who is Radio Rebel, a radio personality that slowly has gained a following locally in the city of Seattle. Hey, iCarly finally got some competition. Her rise to fame can be attributed to a lot of people not only supporting her message of rejecting the status quo and being true to yourself, but also relating to it. Her confident and rebellious nature has resulted in a lot of people feeling inspired to make changes to their lives and not have to worry about being stuck in a label. Though clearly her own words haven't done much to impact her life, as she's still very Clark Kentish. At first I thought this was pretty much an act or a cover for her real identity, since no one would think that she, out of all people, is Radio Rebel. But no, she's actually like that, which is a little funny. But they do go into the irony of that a little later. Within the first few minutes of the movie, we're introduced to a bunch of characters, all of whom represent different parts of the Radio Rebel fandom spectrum. Audrey is Tara's best friend, who is a big fan of Radio Rebel and wants to incorporate everything that she says into her life. Barry and Larry are also friends with Tara, but are hell-bent on figuring out the identity of Radio Rebel, making it the sole thing that they obsess over throughout the movie. Spoiler alert, they don't. Now I don't have to cover their plots anymore. We're then introduced to mean and popular girl Stacy and her best friend Kim, who isn't as mean. Stacy looks down on people who aren't in her popularity bracket, which includes anyone who listens to Radio Rebel, and in effect, Radio Rebel herself. Not necessarily part of the Radio Rebel spectrum, but still important to the movie are Gavin and Gabe, members of the band The G's. Gabe is played by Atticus Mitchell, who you might know from the previously mentioned My Babysitter's a Vampire. They're kind of like the mudslide crush of the school, just without all the bullying. They're the popular and cool guys who get the popular and cool girls, get invited to all the parties, and all of that just for some lousy, meaningless rock music that almost anyone can make. While Gabe is totally indulged in this lifestyle, Gavin is a little different, and we'll see why later. Oh, and did I mention that Tara has a crush on him? Like, a big one.
You know, you could talk to him. You've had a crush on him since, like, the first Harry Potter movie.
You know, it's funny how back then that only meant about 10 years, but now it's over 20. Also, that's a very interesting way to measure time. I'm gonna start doing that now. The issue is, though, considering Gavin and Stacy are in the same bracket and Tara sees herself comfortably beneath both of them, she kind of just automatically assumes that she won't have a chance with him, especially since Gavin's already shown interest in taking her to the prom. Oh, this is pathetic. Even I kind of want to bully her now. Also in the movie are Tara's parents, one of whom is actually her stepdad. You know, usually movies like this kind of throw in the separated household thing for almost no reason, but for once this movie actually did it in a way that matters to the story. Tara's stepdad, Rob, has been having a hard time connecting with Tara, but has managed to find out about Radio Rebel and has become quite the fan, even expressing interest in recruiting whoever it is to a station that he conveniently owns. Tara's mom says that it might be a good idea to ask Tara what she thinks on Radio Rebel, citing it could be a good bonding move. So, taking her advice, he goes up there to ask her thoughts on the mysterious radio host, but ends up finding out the answer to that question and more.
What happened? The music just stopped.
And that rounds off the final set.
For my favorite local band. Now, here is an extra long track just for you guys. Hope you dig it.
After asking a few questions, Rob immediately hires her to work at the station. Bro didn't discuss salary or nothing. That's crazy. Oh, and also her mom knows too. So drama class actually plays a pretty large role in this movie. There's a play that'll be held in class, and of course, Tara, Stacy, and Gavin are all put in the same group. So I know this movie is known for the infamous hair sweep scene, but like there's other moments where Debbie Ryan's character just has these weird, awkward facial quirks. Like, what is this? It's one of the reasons why I kind of hate her. There are so many moments of this movie where she just be ticking me off. I don't like her friend either.
Tell me what you're hiding or I'll start screaming in 3 seconds.
What?
1,
Audrey, no.
2.
While getting her first ever tour of the radio station headquarters, Tara meets Cami Q, who is a radio DJ. She's, very bubbly, I'll give her that. But no, she was actually quite helpful to Tara and gave her some advice, even showing her where her studio was going to be. And yeah, it's really nice. At first, she's incredibly nervous, but as soon as she's officially live, it's as if she was recording back in her bedroom, showing how confident she gets when she becomes a Radio Rebel. And it's during this broadcast where we get a greater sense of why Radio Rebel is so liked. She shouts out specific people in her school, like the kid we saw earlier in the movie with the remote control car, or another girl who gives everyone carnations. Rebel does a good job of making everyone feel seen, which is admirable. She mentions some more stuff about labels and yada yada yada, but says that if anyone is with her, they should all wear red tomorrow at school the next day. And sure enough, that's what mostly everyone does. At first, she's having a good time taking everything in, but after realizing Audrey is still giving her the cold shoulder, thanks to her feeling like she's hiding something, Tara comes clean and admits her real identity, but says that she needs to keep it on the down low because both her and her stepdad want her to remain anonymous. After she agrees, the two start fangirling, or whatever it is they're doing.
There's more on the playlist, so stay tuned. Radio Rebel will be right back on Disney Channel. Now, back to the playlist in Disney Channel's original movie, Radio Rebel.
Despite Tara believing that Gavin would never take interest in a girl like her, even if it's not with romantic intentions, or at least not yet, he actually is incredibly nice to her while they're going over the script for the play. And it's this niceness that makes Tara want to return the favor. So after spotting Gavin's demo CD that he left behind, she decides to play it during her next Radio Rebel broadcast, accompanying that with a message saying that if everyone agrees with what was said during the show, that they should get up and dance at 8 a.m. during school. This is kind of funny though, because at this point, Radio Rebel isn't just popular in her school. Now that she has more exposure, all of Seattle, more or less, is listening to her. But imagine there's that one school that only has like 3 people listening to Radio Rebel, and suddenly they just start dancing in the middle of class or something. Also, the thought of having to do math in the morning just made me shiver. I'm so glad I graduated years ago. The next morning, everyone does what Radio Rebel says and starts grooving and dancing the morning away. We get honestly a really fun moment here where Gavin gets denied by Stacy to dance, so instead he inches his way closer to Tara, who gets encouraged by Audrey to use this as a moment to get closer to him. And wait a minute, does that say LeBron? Gavin later confronts Tara about the demo CD and alludes to him figuring out how exactly that happened, though it's kind of like that scene in the Batman where Bruce thinks Riddler knows who he is but doesn't. Later she heads back to the studio and talks to Cammy Q about her growing popularity. There are posters of her everywhere and it's starting to get to her now. At this point, even Gavin has a thing for Radio Rebel, which sounds great for Tara's sake until you realize that her identity still isn't public. Still though, Tara is astonished by all of the support she's received online. A few people are even upset that the principal, who spends the entire movie trying to take Radio Rebel down, decided that it's no longer allowed to listen to her while at school or follow any of the things that she says, citing it to be disruptive during class hours. But Tara comes up with a loophole for this. Lunch isn't technically a class, so in order to avoid being silenced, Cammy Q blasts some music on behalf of Radio Rebel outside the school during lunch hours. And technically, since she's not on school property and has a permit, she's allowed to do this. One of the few things that I remember about this movie is Debby Ryan's cover of We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's, which is a song I actually really like. I'm also a fan of the Go-Go's in general. I know, weird lore drop. However, and I say this with all due respect, Debby Ryan cannot sing and she truly ruined this song. Look, I get it. I know it was basically a requirement that if you were going to be a female star on Disney Channel, you had to release a song or two. But all of her music is bad. Like the Jessie theme song is truly horrible. I skip it every time I watch the show. I feel like that's why Debby Ryan hasn't released any music since Michelle Obama was trying to give us healthier lunches. That's a good joke. Laugh. Alright, so the principal decides that in order to regain control of her school, she will officially put out a hunt for the identity of this Radio Rebel. Stacy asks her if this would result in the expulsion of Radio Rebel, and after she says yes, she decides that her main goal now is to find out who she is, considering the wall that her existence is putting between her and Gavin. This new bounty hunt, if you want to call it, for Rebel's identity is a bit of an issue though, especially now that she's been nominated for prom queen. Tara starts freaking out because that could lead to her getting expelled, but like, I don't know, just don't go up there to accept it, and that would solve everything. Audrey convinces her though to keep pushing through instead of putting a stop to all this. After all, Radio Rebel has had a huge impact on a lot of different people. She's basically a hero now. A little later, Tara's stepdad though talks to her about the stunt pulled at the school during lunch and how he's aware of the whole expulsion thing. He tries to get her to stop, but once she explains why she has to keep going, he can't help but be proud of her, especially since she seemed to be coming out of her shell. Yeah, I don't know much about good parenting choices, but I'm pretty sure this is not one of them. Regardless though, she starts up her show again and starts talking about fear and encourages everyone to call in, talking about what they're scared of. And she actually gets an overwhelmingly positive amount of callers, some of which are characters we've already met, some of which are played off for laughs, but we do actually get some genuine ones, including Gavin, who shares that he's scared to do his own thing. This is in reference to how throughout the movie, especially after listening to the words of Radio Rebel, he felt more interested in expressing himself through his music. But the issue is, the band he's in has to keep up a stern image of just making cool, fun, mindless music, nothing deep. After offering up some advice, Tara steps out for some fresh air, and while outside, does this.
I'm afraid to show people the real me.
I can't with this movie, bruh.
Mom, if Radio Rebel wins, I could get expelled.
I don't care about Principal Moreno.
What do you mean you don't care? That's your daughter. You're okay with her getting expelled from school? What you gonna do, homeschool her? She's already awkward enough as it is. Things take a turn for the worse when the principal announces that until Radio Rebel reveals herself, she will be canceling the prom. High school kids love their prom though, so when they hear this, they instantly turn on Radio Rebel and start protesting outside the radio station. Despite the heavy presence of the students though, with the help of Kenny, Tara is able to sneak in to do her show, allowing people to call in and voice their thoughts. This might have been a mistake though, because it's during this scene where everyone complains about prom being canceled. Even Gavin, who says that there was a girl who he really wanted to impress that night, but now won't get the chance to. Man, this is like that scene in Superman where everyone turns on him after finding out about that message from Krypton. Best Superman movie, by the way. Sequel on the way too. Cry about it, Snyder fans. Tara lets a song play while her, Rob, and Cammy talk about what they're going to do next.
Man, that Marino's such a backwards thinker.
Backwards.
Okay, the only thing stupider than this scene is what she actually means by backwards. Because in case you haven't seen this movie, the idea she got in 0.5 seconds after Cammy said the word backwards is something that would have been impossible to get from just that one word. So basically, the radio station has decided to give the kids their prom back by hosting it there instead. What does backwards have to do with it though? They're calling it a morp. In 0.5 seconds, she came up with the idea for them to host the prom at the Slam FM HQ and just call it morp instead. All from Cammy saying the word backwards. And the craziest part about all of this, it's still not as bad as that scene from Fant Four Stick. You know which one I'm talking about. Worst Fantastic Four movie, by the way. Which is saying something, because we only just recently received a good one. Things start to heat up story-wise though when Stacy manages to put together that Tara is Radio Rebel. See, just like in Minutemen, Hatching Pete, and Batman Begins, actually, now that I think about it, thanks to a character repeating some dialogue heard early in the movie, another is able to figure out their identity. At some point around the 56-minute mark, Tara sarcastically calls Stacy Radio Rebel's #1 fan. And then later that same day during her show, she again refers to her as her #1 fan. But the thing that I don't get is like why would she do that? She's aware what is at stake if her identity is revealed. She tells Stacy to call in to the radio show to voice her complaints about the morp or whatever, and then later that same day uses a piece of dialogue that basically reveals exactly who she is. I could maybe buy that if Tara referred to her as her #1 fan earlier in the movie, but these two scenes happen like in the same day. For us, 30 seconds apart, but for them, probably about a couple hours. It's like she wanted to get caught or something. There's a million other ways they could have done this scene better. Now that Stacy is on to Tara, she decides to host a party inviting everyone from school the same night that Radio Rebel is supposed to go on. If Tara doesn't show up, then that basically confirms it for Stacy that she is in fact her. To Stacy's surprise though, Tara actually does show up, doing so while the Radio Rebel show is live. And when Stacy decides to call into the show in order to expose Tara, that's when we see how such a stunt is being pulled off. Cammy Q and Tara's mom are simply pulling in I Look Alike, where they're using pre-recorded lines to respond to each one of Stacy's remarks. And like, Radio Rebel uses a voice modulator anyway, so could Tara not just have had Cammy fill in for her and just handle the radio show? I know the plot of the movie and specifically the hijinks that have to happen in it had to, well, happen, but they really made this a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And yeah, as you can imagine, this starts to backfire to the point where Tara has to sneak away to call in herself and take over. However, even this leads to a Scooby-Doo-esque scene where Stacy tries to find Tara. Eventually, she spots her in her bedroom, and it's this scene where we start to get that good old sappy explanation as to why Stacy is really like this. See, when she was a kid, she was very much so open to expressing herself and being who she was, but then kids made fun of her, so now she's stereotypical high school girl number 67. Tara says that she was always so jealous of her back then because of how fearless she was, but states that it's a bit ironic who she's become considering why she made the transformation to begin with. Clearly Stacy doesn't take that conversation to heart though, because later,
Are you kidding me?
girl, shut up! It's literally water. They all just have water in their cups. I see the water pitcher in the back. There ain't no bubbles in there, so it's not Sprite. Getting all bent out of shape because of some water. Fortunately, though, it appears that Radio Rebel's confidence has started to have an effect on Tara.
Do you know what your problem is?
You know what? I don't care what you think my problem is. Keep it to yourself.
To get to the bottom of how she was able to be in two places at once, Stacy sends her friend over to check things out. She then takes a recording of some of Cammy and Tara's mom's conversation and runs back to Stacy with the evidence. The next day at school is quite eventful for a couple different people. Gavin has an argument with his bandmate Gabe about his attitude and says that considering how much of a jerk he's become since the band has blown up, he doesn't want to be associated with him anymore. So he leaves. Then, happening around the same time, Tara gets locked into a janitor's closet by Stacy before the play starts. She tries to call Audrey, but she's too busy talking about her spork. Theater kids, man, I tell you. All of this was done by Stacy so she could not only get back at Tara, but also steal her kissing scene that she originally had with Gavin. A janitor manages to hear Tara's pleas for help and lets her out of the closet, but it appears she arrives just a little too late. Tara tries once again to convince Stacy that she is not in fact Radio Rebel, but at this point it's too little too late. She already has the proof that she needs, and so now she plans on blackmailing her by telling Tara to endorse her Morp Queen campaign during her next broadcast. If she doesn't, then she will expose her. So in order to keep her identity, she does what she was asked. But although such a choice was supposed to bring Stacy some joy, any chance of that goes out the window when her plan backfires on her. Audrey told Gavin what happened with the closet and even had the janitor as a witness. So he breaks things off with her, dumping her right before the big dance. On the day of the Morp, Tara arrives with a new hairstyle that I honestly didn't pick up on at first. I was wondering why they slow-moed the scene. She starts having a bit of a panic attack about what could potentially transpire that night, so Audrey takes her to a more private area. It's there when they notice Stacy, who was more or less trying to hype herself up before they announced the Morp King and Queen. And when seeing this, the two girls start to take a little pity on her. Not me though, I still hate her. Kemi hops up on stage to present the Morp King crown to Gabe, who won it only because Gavin had dropped out. Then later, the two nominees for Morp Queen get announced on stage. Stacy and, well, Radio Rebel. And after waiting around and getting a quick confirmation from Tara herself that she wouldn't be revealing herself, Kemi reads the winner. And it still ends up going to Radio Rebel. Naturally, for a while, no one goes up to accept the award, but then suddenly a voice starts playing through the speakers. A voice talking about how she's the girl that sits in the back of the class, who never raises her hand, who always tends to hide who she really is. Yeah, I'm just gonna spare the details. Tara reveals her identity and says the infamous line,
I'm Radio Rebel.
Look, I totally understand that by doing this, she's basically saying that she's tired of hiding her real self, but I still don't think all of this is worth getting expelled over. Like, you know what kind of damage that does to your record? But you know what though, on second thought, is it even a big deal if she gets expelled? She literally already has her career set and can just try to get her GED or something. Fortunately though, it doesn't seem like that's something she has to worry about because little by little, people start claiming that they're Radio Rebel instead. Believe it or not, this actually kind of works because now that everyone is claiming to be Radio Rebel, the principal doesn't really know who to expel. To me, it's obviously the one who had that whole special entrance or whatever, but yeah, sure. But, you know, also what this scene is trying to symbolize is the impact that Tara has made on the school, which is obviously quite large. She gives a little speech saying that since they're all Radio Rebel, the crown belongs to all of them. But on second thought, she realized that the nice thing to do would be to give it to Stacy, who has waited her entire life for this moment. However, what's great about this scene is that she literally makes her say her name before giving it to her. Like, that's kind of gangster, I'm not gonna lie. All right, I just ordered some Dave's Hot Chicken, so I'm gonna wrap this movie up. Gavin gets called on stage to perform a song that's dedicated to Tara. Tara does the awkward hair thing. They all start jamming out. Gabe and the band even join him. Gavin reveals that he was the dancing sandwich man that Tara asked for help earlier in the movie when she was trying to escape Slam FM without being seen. He kisses her. Whatever this is happens, and they all live happily ever after.
What's next on her playlist? Stay tuned. The premiere of Radio Rebel will be right back. Now back to the DJ who's rocking a big secret. The premiere of Radio Rebel on Disney Channel.
I went into Radio Rebel with really, really low expectations. And you know what? I still didn't like it. Nah, jokes aside, I did go in with low expectations. And although I don't think the movie is particularly good, I think there are still considerably worse Disney Channel or kids movies in general. I'll start with the positives. The best thing this movie had going for it was that it was never really boring. Even when the movie was at its lowest, I still was somewhat interested to see how things would wrap up, which I probably shouldn't have been in retrospect because it was kind of obvious how it would end. But I think there were enough interesting developments and turns happening in this movie to keep me invested in seeing how everything would play out, more so than most mediocre DCOMs. Part of what made it entertaining, no lie, is how awkward it is. There is somewhat a level of charm in this movie, but not intentionally. I was intrigued by how cringe it was. That's just me though. And yeah, that's about it for positives. As for everything else, yeah, like I just said, this movie is cringe. It's awkward. It's constantly giving me secondhand embarrassment, even in moments that weren't intended to do so. This is one of the most awkward watches of any movie I've ever seen. I put this in both the good and bad columns of this review because some of it is funny to look at, but other times it's genuinely horrible. Also, what is it with the hats? What are they called? Fedoras, right? What sick individual decided that nearly every single character should wear one at some point? They didn't even look good on most of them. Man, I wasn't even allowed to wear hats in school. Why was this a thing? I'd say the movie's biggest problem is its lack of originality. How many times are we gonna have a Disney movie where a character has a secret identity that they hide from everyone else for one reason or another? But even crazier, how many times are we gonna have a Disney movie where the message is be yourself? High School Musical did it, Jump In did it, Lemonade Mouth kinda did it, Geek Charming did it. I haven't seen Camp Rock yet, video coming soon, but what I do know is that there's literally a song called This Is Me. Yeah, it would not shock me if that movie also had the same message. Let It Shine and Rags, which also released the same year, basically had both tropes actually, and then Hatching Pete was similar as well. I fully understand that this is a common lesson that kids need to learn, and I'm not even that mad at the movies for rehashing it. Obviously, a few of these did release after Radio Rebel as well, but I think the issue is Radio Rebel did it in probably the least interesting and cliche way out of all of these movies. There's nothing really that sets this movie apart, unlike the other ones. I also think this movie has considerably worse characters as well. There's no one in this movie that I even slightly like. Everyone was either lame or mean or Gavin. Actually, I take that back. I liked Cammy.
She is very gorgeous to me.
I wrote in my notes that this is the iPhone of DCOMs. You know how Apple will just come up with a couple new colors, but then more or less just release the same phone every year? That's kind of what this movie is. The leading gimmick is different, and there are a few changes in execution, but this movie really does have the same message as a lot of movies of its kind, and the way they handled it doesn't make it worth the repetitiveness, in my opinion at least. It's not a very good movie, but compared to other Disney movies around this time, I think it's passable, probably just hovering around the norm for the channel at the time. I would give it a 5 out of 10. I've covered worse movies. I want to know what you think about the movie though. Let me know in the comments below. Check out my Patreon if you want to see content earlier than everyone else. Also subscribe to my second channel, simply titled Stalgia, for more of me. If you're new, feel free to subscribe and hit that like button. And like always, I am Mr. Nostalgia, and I'm out for now. Peace.